There wasn't evidence for any of us for 30, 40 years.
We don't have to wait to be proven right to know what the is going on with our bodies.
A woman will live approximately 40% of her life in menopause. Why is it that our doctors are not answering our questions?
You have not just jumped on the bandwagon. This has been a topic of passion for you for a long time.
20 years.
Where does menopause factor into what's happening in our brain then?
A renovation starts in our brain.
I want to talk about the post-menopause women.
What we have identified ourselves with is fading away.
What's the conversation that we're not having?
Ooh, let's unpack this.
This is the Weigh In with Gina podcast.
My guest today is Dr. Fiona Lovely. She is the founder and clinical director of Calgary Brain and Spine. She's also a writer, a speaker, a podcasting OG, and host of the podcast, Not Your Mother's Menopause. Hello, hi.
Hello. Well, thank you. That was a lovely intro. I appreciate that. Hi, Gina.
Hi, well, you know what? Listen, I was researching the questions I was going to ask you, and I, like you, have had the opportunity to talk to so many informed women, doctors and specialists in the field of menopause. And I'm like, what more is there to say? And I love that you have not just jumped on the bandwagon. This has been a topic of passion for you for a long time.
20 years. 20 years. Yeah.
So what's the story behind that? Because you're so ahead of it. So what's the story there? Was anyone listening to you 20 years ago?
Hopefully. Maybe my husband. I don't know. He still thought I was cute back then. Anyways. Okay. So when I entered my professional career, I'm a chiropractor, in case the bones surrounding me behind me aren't obvious. So I'm a chiropractor. And when I was brand new chiropractor, in my first month of practice, I had a woman in her 40s come in with low back pain and a whole mess of menopausal symptoms. And so I thought I was going to be taking care of people's spines. But what I didn't realize, but can see now all these years later, is that first lady who came in to see me that had all the symptoms and I had answers. And I sat with her and I validated her and I gave her information and she was so grateful. And I remember when she left the office that day, I thought, well, that's not chiropractic, but it is healthcare, right?
Yeah.
And so I answered her and she was so grateful. She said, you're the first person. My doctor dismissed me, said it was postpartum. It was breastfeeding. I mean, she was in her 40s and she had a toddler with her. And she said, he just said it was because I was still breastfeeding. And she was so grateful. And I thought, well, I really enjoyed that. Now, here's what's, I think, probably maybe one of the most important parts of this is that I was gaslit by my own gynecologist when I was in my 20s. So before I went to chiropractic college. And so when I was in school, I took additional training in women's health so that I could educate myself, so that I could advocate for myself, because I was never going to let another gynecologist tell me something I knew that wasn't true. Yeah. So that is my origin story of how it is that I'm the chiropractor that talks about menopause. And so the show came 10 years ago. So it was a little bit later down the road.
And what do you think about the conversation in the past year? Because it's just exploded.
Yes. And I'm here for it. It's about GD time. As somebody who's been talking about it for so long, back when I had that original patient, the word perimenopause wasn't even around. It wasn't even a thing, right? We weren't even using the term functional medicine. We were using it something else, right? We were saying, actually, when I took those advanced trainings in school, they were called restorative endocrinology. So, I know, right? So all these years later, and so I just, I'm so here for the conversation. I have been having that conversation for 20 years. I've been talking to women about these things for so long in hopes that when we're educated, we can ask better questions.
With all the conversation happening right now, what's the conversation that we're not having?
I don't know if this is so much that we're not having this conversation, but I think it certainly happens in my circles all the time, but I'm a bit of a shit disturber. So,
Same.
okay, perfect. Why is it that our doctors are not answering our questions? Why have they not been trained to take care of women's health?
Right.
So a woman will live approximately 40% of her life in menopause. And why is it that only 1 in 5 gynecologists feels qualified by their own survey to talk to women in menopause? That's women's health specialists.
Yeah, we have a menopause doctor, an MD, that comes on and shares her knowledge with us, and she's the first one to admit that she wasn't trained in it,
They
and
got
she
none of
didn't
it.
really have a clue.
Yes.
I actually I went to go see my doctor probably 3 years ago now. I'm 53 and I've gone without my period now for almost 9 months, fingers crossed for the second time. I'm
Yay!
feeling much better. I had frozen shoulder, heart palpitations, thought I was gonna have a heart attack, crying every day. I also was dealing with a lot of stress at the time. So I think being an expert in what I do, I knew what I needed to do and I just kind of blew it off. It must be stress. But when I went to my healthcare provider, she's like, here's an antidepressant. Then
Yep.
fast forward 2 years later, she said to me, "I'm sorry. I didn't know any better and I have all the therapies. I'm going to these conferences, I'm taking classes, I'm learning." Like, I think if the conversation I would have had with her today would be so different than the conversation I had with her years ago. So there are doctors who recognize
Oh,
this, but
yeah.
how do we bridge the gap there?
Well, and I just want to say that you've got a great doctor. And the women for the show, I talk to gynecologists all the time. I talk to
Yeah.
medical professionals all the time. And they all say the same thing that you just said. We got no training in it. It's like
Yeah.
women disappeared at that point. Once reproduction was off the table, our interest in your health is nil. And that should enrage people.
Yeah.
So, anyways, you got a good doctor. If she said to you, she came back to you and said, "I'm so sorry."
I was watching a clip of yours on Instagram, and you were talking about, where are all the grandmothers,
Ugh.
right? They're frail and they're slipping away. And I'm trying to think back to my own mom, who, man, she had breast cancer at a young age, like they're 30 something, which I think it sent her into early menopause looking back. And she was just fucking crazy pants. Like, honest to God, I was just like, what's wrong with my mom?
Yep.
I didn't know, and at the time she didn't know, and I've had conversations with her since, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, like, obviously this is what I was going through." And I know my mom and her mom, and although my grandma was great, they didn't talk. They
Mm-mm.
didn't talk about anything, and you talk about sharing this wisdom down generations. So what happened there? Is it that they're frail and, they're just, slipping away, like you said, because of the way we live our lives today? Is this a general, where did it go sideways?
Yeah. Ooh, let's unpack this. Oh, this is
Okay.
good. Okay. So,
I have tea.
okay, perfect. Perfect. The absence of estrogen in particular, but certainly progesterone and testosterone on a woman's bones, brain, and heart and muscles
Yeah.
mean we get frail. And when we
Yeah.
get frail, we get sick. So that sickness for women in our mothers, our grandmothers, our great grandmothers' generations looked like osteoporosis, heart disease, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia, etc. Okay, or broken hips and things like this. Okay, so that's where the frailty comes in. By the way, when I recorded that video, I knew I wanted to talk about. I never know what I want to talk about when I'm doing these videos, so it's always a crapshoot what it's going to be. And I literally felt the stab in my chest when I said, "Where are the grandmothers?" It still brings tears to my eyes
Yeah.
because we've lost the wisdom. At the same time, medicine wasn't taking care of us. And we have a culture that says a woman that isn't traditionally beautiful in a way a 23-year-old female is no longer of use to us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So there's a lot of things happening there. It's cultural. It's certainly a failure to be taken care of, but also we stopped honoring wisdom from women, which is bananas, because look at the world. Imagine what would happen if the grandmothers took over right now. We'd have kindness again. We'd have stability again. We'd have peace again. People would be fed. None of this other bullshit that's going on right now. So that's really, again, I feel strongly about that one in case you can't hear it in my voice.
Yeah.
We're missing it.
That's why it resonated with me when I saw it. Speaking of that frailty in being a chiropractor and, having your hands on someone and seeing people repeatedly, you must see the physical evidence of, women going through various stages of menopause. Like, can you feel that systematic breakdown? Have you
Yes.
been seeing that for a while? Can you kind of like,
yes,
I don't know, like,
yes, and
share that with us?
You bet. I wasn't trained in this either. It's not just medicine. I was not trained in this either. I found the information because I was looking for myself. So as a chiropractor, what I recognize now, although it took the emergence of the information and certainly the research paper from Dr. Vonda Wright and her associates detailing the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause, which came out in July of 2024. Okay. And she is the one that really put a name to it. And then I could see it. I could see it so clearly in my patients. And it looks like this: frozen shoulder, heel pain. I know, me too. Plantar fasciitis and gluteal tendinopathies, which are basically buttock pain. I know. I had frozen shoulder at 37.
Well, what was that called? Something syndrome?
Musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause, the MSM.
Yeah, I have a great chiropractor. He's also a man. I had frozen shoulder, and it's like joint health, get physio, not once ever. And it was like a whole year I couldn't lift my arm, so much pain.
Terrible.
And then one day it just went away. And then it wasn't until I heard someone talk about it being part of menopause, I was like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. So the egress of estrogen from the soft tissue causes the scar tissue to build up, but also inflammatory cytokines and other things to show up in the shoulder joint. And so you just don't. So this is the most freely movable joint in the body. There's a lot of brain resources that go to this joint to make sure we can do it's part of a handful of things that make us the primary at the top of the food chain. Let's put it that way. So it's estrogen. It's the loss of estrogen in the system.
I found it's interesting that your clinic name is Brain and Spine.
Yeah.
I don't think people associate the two and two go hand in hand. I mean, it makes sense when you point out the obvious, but why? Why Brain and Spine?
My fellowship training is in functional neurology, so I work with broken brains as well as spines. Yeah, that didn't come up in your research, I guess. It's okay.
Well, and where does menopause factor into what's happening in our brain then?
Oh my God. Where do we start? So we think of perimenopause as the physical changes that happen with the hormones as they leave the body, etc. But actually, prior to those physical changes, a renovation starts in our brain. It can be a 20-year event where we completely change how the brain works in terms of fuel, in terms of connectivity, in terms of volume in the areas of the brain that we are able to use. And part of what happens there is the signaling of the ovarian hormones starts to change. And then we get the physical changes that come along with perimenopause. If you want to be educated on this, the research of Dr. Lisa Mosconi and Dr. Roberta Brinton are the ones that you want to look at. They're amazing. You've got
I
the
think I have a
menopause brain.
book.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
menopause
I was
brain.
like,
Yep.
yeah, I
Yep.
think I have a book. What's the conversation? Let's break this down. I mean, first of all, are the younger women even listening? Like, what's the conversation for the young woman, the woman who's in it, and the woman who feels like they're over it?
Yeah.
Like, are the
Okay.
young women listening?
I think
Do they
I
care?
think so. I think so.
Yeah.
So it's called millennial pause, by the way. First of all, as a 52-year-old woman, so you and I are in the same era.
Yeah.
Thank God we are as scrappy as we are, because it's only because Gen X refused to shut up and sit down
Yeah.
that this is happening. Like, you look at the major menopause influencers, none of us are sitting quietly waiting
Yeah.
for the information to come. We're fed up.
Yeah.
We've seen it happen with our patients for so long and ourselves, where we just weren't cared for. And all of a sudden now we have research. It's because the women have stepped forward and said, okay, you know what, to hell with this. I'm going to do my own research. That's what's happening here. That's why the conversation is exploding, because we actually have the data now. It's not just the anecdotal clinical information, which is supremely useful. So someone tells you, because there are these menopause experts out there that say, only if it's evidence-based. Boo, that doesn't count. There wasn't evidence for any of us for 30, 40 years. Like, we can't do that.
Listen, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about myself, where I haven't been in a lab and doing scientific studies on weight loss, but I've learned a lot about actually helping women and what it takes. And, I don't know how many times, I talked about insulin resistance, for example, we talked about hormones and weight loss, so much more than eating less and exercising more. And people are like, the thing that I love about science is it's science until science changes.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything before that is pseudoscience, even though it turns into science.
Yep.
And I love the scrappiness, because I think I just had enough. And I was like, okay. And then I used to say, did I really just figure all this out? And of course, now the science, it's great. It's proving me right. But we don't have to wait to be proven right to know what the fuck is going on with our bodies.
Exactly. Absolutely. One of the things I realized when I saw the retraction of the Women's Health Initiative was that I had a group of women in my practice, women in their 80s, who come to see me every 2 weeks, to come to see their chiropractor to make sure they're staying flexible, make sure they're not having that frailty thing happen.
For them.
Exactly. And I realized every single one of them didn't listen to the recommendation of their doctor to stop taking their hormones in 2002. And you know what? Every single one of them is sharp as a tack and strong. I know. So that's anecdotal evidence. That's anecdotal, right? But that doesn't make it any less powerful. So if your menopause approved practitioner is saying that they are only evidence-based, they're missing the point. So seek elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's important to science at the end of the day, but it's nuanced, and what works for, someone else might not work for you, or what works for you might not work for somebody else. And this is where you got to really get to know your body and where you're at and what you need, and be curious and investigative, right? Good on those women. I think there's something in the air in Calgary. Is that what it is?
I think so. They're just like,
okay.
Pry it from my cold, dead hands. It's not happening.
So, conversation for younger women.
Yes.
If you could say one thing to them, what in all the wisdom that you have and all the conversations that you have with medical experts and people who science, what's the takeaway for them?
Yeah, so I think they're paying attention because most of the older millennials have siblings that are our age, right? So they're looking at us and going, okay, is what I'm experiencing actually menopause?
Yeah.
So listen to the younger women who are listening to the show. Find an older sister, find an auntie, find somebody that's a little bit older than you right now and say, listen, did you feel like your cheese was sliding off your cracker when you were in your late 30s and early 40s? Because I don't feel right at all, but my doctor just wants to give me antidepressants.
Yeah.
Right? So
yes.
This is a really, really important topic, because If the egress of estrogen or the loss, a slow decline, first of all, in early perimenopause, estrogen goes up and down and up and down and up and down, but you have a slow decline in progesterone and testosterone over many years. And part of what happens is our mental health goes sideways.
Yeah.
The answer to that for the vast majority of women is not an antidepressant, it's hormones. But we don't have enough doctors that are trained on how to prescribe HRT to a woman who is still cycling. That goes against what the evidence shows, right?
Yeah.
Which is only when you've stopped cycling and only if you've had hot flashes. Now, I don't know about you, Gina, but I've never had a single hot flash. I got all the other menopause symptoms.
No, I've never had, which is why I didn't believe I was in menopause. My mom kept saying, "Oh, I think." I'm like, "Mom, I've never had a hot
Mom's
flash."
right. Yeah.
And I was told, "You don't worry about it until you missed your period for a whole year. You don't even talk about it. You don't talk about it until you missed,
Yeah.
like, you don't go to your doctor until it's been a whole year since after your period is done." So I'm like, I don't got to worry about this shit. Meanwhile,
Yep. Exactly. Meanwhile, all of these things are happening and you're wondering if you're falling apart, about to break a leg, demented, are you going to be able to hold down? For me, I was like, am I going to be able to take care of my patients? Right? Am I going to be able to even remember to pay the bills at home? At the same time, I was taking care of a mother that was experiencing dementia. And so when I talk about brain health for women, it's personal, Gina, because I had a mother with dementia and a grandmother with Alzheimer's. So it's personal. And I get fiery about this, because women will often say to me, well, I don't have any symptoms of menopause. I said, great. Don't boast that too loudly or someone's going to punch you. But also remember the research. I don't want to say remember. I want to tell you, if I'm speaking to my patients that are asking about this, that the research that we have now is undeniable in terms of the protective qualities of HRT on the bones, the brain, and the heart. By the way, the heart disease is the number one killer of women.
yes.
Yes, that's the one we should be talking about. Nobody talks about that one.
Is it because of menopause that I know there's lifestyle factors. I know it's the state of our body when we enter this transition, but looking back, we've heard that forever. We've heard that forever. Is it because of menopause and us not
Yes.
getting the treatments that we need?
Estrogen is heart protective.
Yes.
Okay. So you want to be looking at your hormone replacement therapy before you stop cycling, preferentially for the millennials that are listening, before you stop cycling. Now, if you're in your late 30s and early 40s and you're thinking, well, it's not too bad, just wait. Just wait. 5 phases of perimenopause. The last 2 or 3 are the most symptomatic. So the best thing you can do right now is offload stress. Dump your stress bucket often, daily, hourly, whatever's required. And take good care of yourself in the way you've always heard you should. The lifestyle management pieces, the eating and drinking well, etc. I'm turning on my heater here because it's chilly in my room all of a sudden. Anyways, I'm clearly not having a hot flash.
What's the conversation for the women who can't do, for whatever reason, the menopause hormone therapy? Like what's the conversation there for them? Because I know there's some of them listening and they're like, oh, okay, great. I'm doomed to, have frozen shoulder for life and die of heart disease. Like what's the conversation there?
Well, you have to double down on the lifestyle stuff. You have to be real serious about that, right? So I think what's really important for context here is to remember that in the year 1901, which doesn't sound like it was all that long ago, but then again, I was born in 1970. So I don't know, 1973 to be clear, not 1970, just in case anyone was mistaken there for a second. Women in 1901 lived to the age of 51. So we've essentially doubled our lifespan in the space of about 4 generations. That's extraordinary. That's what medicine does.
Yes.
Now what we need to do is focus on the prevention. And so this is where the conversation comes in for the women who would choose not to take HRT for whatever reason, is make sure you're doing the anti-inflammatory things that you can do. That means diet, that means exercise, that means sleep, that means getting shitty people out of your life. Like seriously, clean up your relationships. It's time. So, I mean, there's a lot to the conversation about the inflammasome, if you will, but certainly the nutrition piece is really important. And I don't know, Gina, I'm going to lean on you a little bit here with this. One of the things that drives me a little bit batty about when we talk about nutrition and what's appropriate nutrition, the Mediterranean diet comes up over and over again. And let's be really clear, the Mediterranean diet has its benefits, but the reason why it comes up over and over again is because it's the only diet that anybody actually researched. That's why. Interesting, right? And researched it to the point of saying it's beneficial for heart, et cetera. Of course, we've got data on things like keto, et cetera, especially for neurodegenerative diseases. But there's a lot of confusing information out there. And in terms of hard science, it's really simply the Mediterranean diet. So, but that's not what I recommend for people. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I want to know because everyone, and it drives me crazy when people refer to my diet being like the Mediterranean diet. And I'm like, it's so much more nuanced than that and individual than that. And yeah, I start with a basic food plan that's not rocket science, just give the body what it needs. But I teach people how to be in tune to their body's needs, even on the protein. You want to make sure you're getting enough in, but eating more than you need isn't beneficial. It's not about low carbs, right carbs at the right time. And everyone's got to figure out what works best for them. So I want to hear this. Yeah. What say you on this?
I mean, what you just said is exactly right. Not one thing for every single person. We need to be in tune. And I think the protein conversation is a good example of this. I know I was trying earlier this year, certainly after reading the Musculoskeletal Syndrome of Menopause paper from Dr. Wright, I was trying to do the maximization of my protein. Okay, now that's 120 grams. That's the number we hear thrown around a lot. First of all, here's what I learned. I am not that far from disordered eating. And as soon as I got this whole like protein, because this is how we were raised. This is when our brains were developing. It was during the diet industry era of the late 70s and 80s. And I got obsessive about it. And, you know, my brain started to go sideways. I didn't poop. I was like, oh my God, I got to eat the protein. And I just realized I just don't eat that much food. And I interviewed a nutritionist by the name of Lisa Kilgour on the show. And she was the one who said, no. These guidelines are not for everybody. We have to, if they start to become disordered eating, it's a problem. So that's, I think, a good example of how not to do it. But I had to have my own lived experience with that.
It's like, I don't, no disrespect to Stacey Sims, who you might know. Like, she's she's a workout person. She's at the gym. She's buff. She's whatever. I am assuming getting enough protein for her was really important, but most women just need to eat fucking lunch.
Yes.
We just need to not go 10 hours without eating. It's so crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Stacey Sims. Her work is such a huge contributor to what we understand about women's bodies. But again, it's for her, she can consume that much protein because she's in the gym all the time lifting. I'm not. I would love to say I'm that person. I'm not. So for me,
I think a big problem is our view of healthy is like the fit, thin woman. Like that's whenever we're trying to aspire to make change in our lives, like that's this person, or this is, if to be healthy, I have to go to the gym every day when, what would make me healthier is just going for a walk starting somewhere, What do you think why do you think it's so hard for us to make changes? Like you talk to so many people, women who really want to be healthy and make change. Why do you think it's so hard?
That's a good question. I think in a lot of ways, there is a neuro hardwire going on there. That's a cultural thing that says we take care of others before we take care of ourselves. And this is a real crossroads that shows up for women at menopause in particular. It's part of the grief cycle that happens with menopause. It's part of that. Yeah. It's part of that empty nesting business that happens. Right. And I chose not to have children. And even I felt the grief of menopause, but my friends and my patients that have kids that have gone away to school now, there is a real grief that comes up with that. And also the loss of reproduction. Anyways. So I think in a lot of ways, our standards for ourselves are low, but our expectations are high.
Mm.
And in order to make the lifestyle changes to be in the gym every day, we would have to compromise on what others think we should be doing with our time. I feel like I should be taking notes here, Gina.
I feel like
Anyways.
we're going to need another 6 hours to
Yeah.
have this conversation.
Yes. So this is what happens. We have to part of the perimenopause cascade is that we drop the people pleasing unless we choose to keep it. Okay, we can choose, but it's a lot easier to put aside the cultural expectations of women when the hormones of people pleasing, aka here's estrogen and progesterone, so I'm cute some parts of the month, so you'll fuck me and we'll have a baby. Pardon me for being crass, but that's biology for you, okay?
Here for it. Yep.
Okay, good. So when the biological impetus of people pleasing leaves the building in menopause, now we have true wisdom, we have confidence, we have the ability to make choices to raise our standards. So I think there's a few things going on there.
To me, that's exciting. I can feel it happening. Now, talk to me a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have told you to fuck off. This is the worst thing on the planet. But with where I'm getting now, I'm feeling the calmness, the clarity. Like, I'm okay with it. But it was a lot of crying on my part.
Oh, yeah.
I did have kids going to school, but also knowing I am at that age where I can't go back anymore. Like that's
Would you
my
want
past.
to?
Nor would I want to. Nor would I want to. Man, you touched on grief there. I'm just kind of looking at our time here, but you touched on grief. I think grief is this underlying thing that so many of all of us are dealing with that really nobody talks about. And so I'm fascinated that you brought up grief. I mean, and there's so many different types of grief. It's like grief is one thing that's prevalent and constant in our lives, and we're trying to make all these changes and address our issues while sometimes is trying to get out of bed every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
You must have had so many conversations with women.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. So before I talk about grief, I just want to say I'm in the same era that you are. I am loving what is coming in. The crone coming in is just, I'm literally embracing her. I'm like, oh my God, like I literally have no more shits to give and I'm loving every minute of it. And I'm not in a bunch of misery anymore. Right? So that's what I'm saying to the youngers. If you're listening, that late perimenopause is a shit show. It really is. So get your supports in place before that. And it sucks and it doesn't last forever. And please don't suffer in silence with it. Reach out to another sister. We have all gone through it. The older ones, we've all gone through it. A woman is more likely to commit suicide in the 40s and 50s than any other era. And I do believe that is because we are not supporting brain and mental health in menopause the way we should. So that's why I say don't let it fester.
And quit our jobs and leave our marriages.
Really,
like
yes.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on there. That's a lot of layers.
Tons. And the grief is part of that, right? So we have these high expectations for our lives, for being a certain way for our partner, for our children, for our friends, for our boss, for our parents, if they're still around. And I think part of the grief comes from not just the loss of the children needing the mother in you so much, or at least every single moment of every single day, but also the mother and the maiden are fading in the background and the crone's coming forward. And as that happens, what we have identified ourselves with is fading away. And so we try to hang on by, you know, going to the gym
Mm.
even more, getting a facelift. None of these things are bad. It's whatever you need it to be, babe. So, you know, there's no judgment in this.
Mhm.
I don't need a
Mhm.
facelift yet, but maybe someday.
Oh,
I
I'm
don't.
getting one. I'm
Okay,
just
there you
breaking it down. I'm gonna find Kris Jenner's face person and do
Uh-huh.
all the lifts. But anyways, yes, teach
Have
his
you
own,
seen
yes.
Madonna? Have you seen Madonna?
Oh, yeah.
I think
Oh,
she and Kris Jenner have the same person.
I mean, in one sense, why can't we just age? But also technology is there, and I'm gonna fight it. And to each his own,
Yes,
though. I love beauty no
absolutely.
matter how it
Me
presents.
too.
All women are beautiful. But yes, okay, sorry,
Yep.
I
Yep.
digress.
No, it's okay. And I think this is part of where the grief comes in. So all of a sudden we're not the maiden anymore. We were the mother hanging on to the maiden, but now it's obvious that the maiden is no longer around. Go ahead, please.
I want to talk about what is the conversation for the post-menopause women, because I have a bunch of them that come to my group. We have these menopause experts. They talked about perimenopause, the change, hormone therapy, and they're like, "Well, what about us over here?" Like, yo, hello. What about us? And
Yeah.
what is the conversation? Is it a mindset thing? Is it that they need to step in and own it? Is it they're still struggling but not being recognized? What is that conversation for the post-menopause woman?
Well, I would say interview me again in 2 years and I'll tell you. So I mean, it depends on what angle you're looking for here. And what I mean is it the postmenopausal woman who's still symptomatic? Is that what you mean?
I think it's the women who feel like they didn't have the conversations and they were
Yeah, they
left out
didn't.
of the conversations and they're still being left out of the conversations. And maybe
Damn
they
it.
want validation, right?
Yes.
Like, where do I factor in now, having gone through, I went through this, I was probably alone in it.
Yes.
Now what do I do? Can I
Yeah.
backtrack and reflect on my life?
Yeah.
Do I move forward with my life? I think it's complicated. I don't know that there's a one way to answer this question.
Let's validate these women right now. You
Okay.
absolutely went through menopause. You
Yeah.
absolutely had symptoms of menopause that everybody, including yourself and your doctor, failed to recognize was
Mm.
was concerning your hormones.
Yeah.
So you deserve to take up the space now. You deserve to ask all the questions now. You can have HRT at any age. You just have to find the practitioner that will prescribe it for you. That is another whole level of verboten as far as medicine is concerned. And there's,
Yeah.
you have to talk to a woman about her history, etc.
Yeah.
And it's a very individualized thing. So if you're like, I want to get on this conversation, like, here's my hot tip for that. Go to your pharmacist and ask the pharmacist who in your area is prescribing HRT in a contemporary fashion. And then call that practitioner's office and get on their schedule. And I realize, okay, I'm in Canada. So what I often hear is, well, do I have to pay out of pocket for it? Yes, you do. And it'll be worth every penny.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now, so let's just validate them. And then the other ones, we want to validate the ones that can ask the questions. But as we talked about earlier in this conversation, so many of the wise ones are no longer able to ask the questions because their brains won't let them. The wisdom has been lost.
I think about that with so many, like my, grandma's sister had Alzheimer's. We talked about putting her in the home, and so many of them, that's their situation. And like now we know different, and there's something that can be done. What do we do with that information that, my mother went through this, not my mother, but, my friends' mothers went through this. They're now at the point of no return. What do we do with that? What do we do with that?
You've probably heard of Dr. Peter Attia, yes?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Okay. So he says that the Women's Health Initiative and denying women hormones for that 20 some years that we did was the greatest mistake that medicine has made in the modern era.
Yeah.
And so I think acknowledging that first is really important. And I'm remembering a conversation I had with my mom's gerontologist. She was the doctor that was taking care of all of the people that were in the memory care unit that my mom lived in. She passed early last year. But I said to her, she was well aware of how estrogen has massive effect on the brain and brain synaptic activity and brain networks and brain areas, etc. And I said to her, I said, have you ever just fantasized about putting an estrogen patch on the ladies in here? She said, every single day, every single day. And then we talked about the movie Awakenings, where Robin Williams, Robert De Niro, that was how they found the Parkinson's therapy, levodopa, and gave the Parkinson's, the comatose patients. This was actually a real scenario. So we talked about whether or not, like, how much, what the conversation would look like with the families to say, can we try estrogen on your mom to see what happens? But I think,
Serious.
yeah, but she was quite open to it. She said, I'm 47 and I can't get help. This was a medical specialist, right? An MD specialist in gerontology. And she said, even I can't get a colleague to prescribe me hormones. How am I going to do this for the ladies here? So I think we can be really aware of the errors that have been made. And again, I just want to shout out my Gen X sisters. Like, we are just unwilling to go quietly on this. Fuck no.
I am right there.
No
I am
way.
right there. I am right there with you. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this conversation, and we do need to wrap this up. But before, you have this podcast called "Not Your Mother's Menopause." What can someone expect tuning in and listening?
Yeah, pretty much the same as you got here today. So I have wonderful guests that come on the show that talk to me about all kinds of things that interest me. So whenever I get approached about a guest coming on the show, I always put it through the filter of, is there something here that I don't know about that I want to know more about? And those are the guests that I bring on the show. And I think there's 190 episodes as of today. And the first 70 episodes are just me talking. Now, what's really interesting is that in those first episodes, HRT wasn't really an option yet. So most of what I recommend in that time is the lifestyle management so for the ladies that can't do HRT or choose not to do HRT, totally fine. Go to those early episodes and have a listen. But the guests are just, they're great. They're just so much fun. And the last thing I say to my guests before I press record is, be yourself, swear all you want, say the things. We don't really edit stuff here. I mean, there's been a couple of times that someone had a sneeze or the cat jumped on the table. But otherwise, just it's raw and real. Yeah.
I love that, which is probably why I love you. Thank you for the conversation today. I know people are going to want to know where to find you. You can follow her on Instagram and TikTok, Dr. Fiona Lovely. Do we have a website that we can share with people? Yep. drlovely.com. And I know you are Calgary based, but you do run workshops and whatnot that people can attend online and worldwide. So I would imagine if they want to find out more about that, they can head over to your website.
Absolutely. And I'm just putting together a great passion project, which I'm so excited to talk about, which is the Menopause Doula certification, which is to teach other women, professionals or not, to do the work that I do as a menopause coach of 20 years. I call my students menopause doulas. And if you want to find out more about that program, it's menopausedoulacouncil.com is where you can find out when we're opening the classroom, etc.
Well, I have a feeling that we're going to need that. We're going to need a lot more of that. Dr. Fiona Lovely, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today.
Gina, thanks for having me on the show. I've enjoyed us.